Hey everybody, it's Mario Kart, a household name for a party game. You get to drive the toads across the roads. Will you win? No one knows. Odds are, if you've ever owned a Nintendo gaming machine, you've played this series. You know, it's the one with the turtle shells and the banana fruits. Designed to reward the newcomer and punish the gifted, you'll quickly find out that any perceived code of ethics quickly goes out the window as love turns to hate. Now, this can all be an exercise of willpower, but generally just going through the game against the computer-driven opponents should be a piece of cake. Note the qualifier, generally. So look, I originally planned to make a video that was like a deep dive into the lore and the socio-economic theories or some shit about Mario Kart. The generic knowledge hub stuff, you know what I mean. And I figured at the same time I could make my Mario Kart Tour microtransactions tax deductible, a la Pokemon Go video. Seemed like an easy vid, just play through a couple games. I've done it many times before. That's what I thought. Oh, the hubris. Because I hit a roadblock along the way. Just one of these games, just one, that takes every punishing cliche that Mario Kart has to offer and turns it up to 7-Eleven. This is Super Mario Kart. Aesthetically pleasing, surely, but as the saying goes, this is a wolf inside a sheep inside a wolf. This Mario Kart cannot be won by skill alone, not when the odds are so egregiously against you. The vehicle handles with the loose traction of a dog on ice, the AI rubber bands with intent to kill. There's no room to get a huge lead here. The opponent's cheats with the items obtained where there are no boxes, virtually unlimited in quantity and quality. Pain is common in Mario Kart games, but this I was not prepared for. And because of this, I couldn't finish that originally planned video. So instead, I guess I'll just talk about this, because what else do I really do on this channel? As far as mainstream karting goes, as far as video games in general go, this series is pretty easy. Stuff like CTR offer much greater challenge per capita. So I was befuddled on how I, Tyler of Knowledge Hub, could get stuck at this medium difficulty in the Grand Prix of Super Mario Kart. I've played this game before, albeit mostly the time trials. I never really ventured into the main game, but I had an idea of how to drive, how to kart. But before I dive into why this game is so fucking hard, I want to briefly cover some of the development and technological thingies that went into this game. One, because it's pretty interesting, and dos, because otherwise this would just be a video of me complaining that a 30-year-old game made for little babies is making me sad. So back in the day, this day to be exact, 3D gaming was on the cutting edge of future tech hyper novelty. A few arcade titles offered minimal 3D experiences, but it wouldn't be until a bit later that stuff like the Virtua Racing was at your local Virtua Racing store. On the PC, the premier title would be the kinda almost 3D Wolfenstein 3D. And there's a couple others, but who cares? But in the home, on the plastic boxes, you could still find solace in the illusion of 3 dimensions. The Super Nintendo, or SNES, had a graphics mode for programmers to take advantage of called Mode 7. In short, a 1024 by 1024 background could be warped and manipulated in such a way that it looked like it's all 3D, but it's 2D. And your location would be plugged into a matrix, and you'd get this pretty convincing 3D environment. Albeit, a little pixelated. Since there's no polygons and it's actually still 2D gameplay, these games feel much better than, say, the Super FX Real 3D that would come later to the same console. One of the best examples of what this tech could do was the once relatively obscure, not so obscure F-Zero. And once that game was released, the dev team wanted to make a sequel. One with this multiplayer split-screen aspect to it. 2 F-Zeros for the price of 1. Well, turns out going fast on these long-ass tracks wasn't gonna happen. Not if you gotta render 2 screens for 2 players. The sneezes can't do it. Time to shift direction. Multiplayer was still the focus, because it's fun. The tracks are gonna have to fit into the constraints of a small square. Now, to accommodate for this limitation, the track layout would be short and winding, and the vehicles would move much slower than an F-Zero. Now, the issue is cars don't really drive like this, so instead of a standard car zippity-doo-dah game, it became, you guessed it, karts. The dev team consisted of just 8 people, including the producer Shiggy, Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto. It was pretty apparent that this would not work as an F-Zero 2, and as such, the characters and vehicles were just the placeholders for the time being. You know, the generic, the Stig, the Jeremy Clarkson. The game would have a heavy emphasis on vehicle combat. Throw oil slicks and watch them slide around. Again, this was a good idea and worked well with the small map space because pure speed was never an option. It was decided that the team needed a better grasp on karting physics, so one day they went to the track for some research. They knew that these things would feel different than cars. Racing karts can spin out and drift with weight, and there's a lot of cool movement things they do, but the karts they rented were purpose-built not to spin out or do any of that cool shit, so they just drove these things around for a while. According to them, the outing was a success, stating, "We learned that karts are fun." Then they decided to build a tiny little kart that was powered by a real engine for the purposes of research. After some tuning and a decent amount of R&D, they handed the controls to some guy who crashed it within seconds. And then it broke, so they went back to making the game. At its core, the game was supposed to differentiate itself from the oh-so-common serious racing games. No damage to your vehicles, no gas, just items and fun, silly willy. That combat element was still key, even outside the battle mode, but it was understood that those that were coming from F-Zero and other racing games might be turned off by the idea of random chance determining the victor. Now, there was a time where they considered allowing the player to turn off items in the main game, the Grand Prix, but they didn't, because they thought, well, if you fall behind, you won't have a chance to catch up. Ironic, isn't it? Because this is exactly what makes the game so hard. Oh yeah, and Mario and shit, they were added relatively late into development, supposedly because distinguishing between characters from behind was, you couldn't. I'm sure brand recognition had nothing to do with it though, because Man Drives Go-Kart the game would have sold just as well. Mario and the Luigi and the Bowser and and hey, it's the 10th anniversary of Donkey Kong Jr., so yeah! And then the game's finished, and it got sent to all the local Kmarts, and everyone loved it. But see, it's important to remember that it is still the first karting game, so it didn't have the benefit of being able to take advantage of each new innovation and formula alliteration, and this gives it its quirky sensibilities. First off, how it looks. It looks fucking amazing. Mode 7 is just so good. A lot of these pseudo 3D plane 2D Pilot Wings games, they're great. It's really easy to lose yourself in the world and forget, hey, this isn't real life, it's a video game. And I've heard some complaints about the flickering, which admittedly can make some objects hard to see. Now, HD emulation has actually been done on Mode 7 games without changing the original art, and this is just the graphics are not everything. No, 3D Mario Kart is simple to understand. You drive the blooper, you turn when the blooper would naturally turn. It's like real life. But for this, you're gonna have to change how you think about physics and spatial dimensions as you turn and you drift and you die just to accommodate for this game's Mode 7 roots. This gives it a mildly spicy learning curve, but that's appealing because if you played the other Mario Karts, you've played the other Mario Karts. Anyway, this game does feel pretty responsive. More responsive than most karting games. And hey, it's 60 FPS. Take that, fucking Sony. Controls pretty great. Turning feels sloopy and slippery, and learning ways to control all this it's essential. Okay, enough talk. Time to play the real game, the Grand Prix. And by that, I mean I'm gonna talk about the Grand Prix. So it's more talk, actually. Items are useful, but not OP like in the later games. Lightning is the only super item, and that's incredibly rare. Most items require precise, inhuman timing, inhuman management of resources. The item boxes themselves, you get one, and it's done. So far, so good, right? But what really causes this game to get my nibbles in a tizzy is the fact that your opponents are omnipotent gods. They have access to virtually unlimited items. Motherfucker, I only get one banana a lap. Bitch-ass Luigi bursts out a star every 10 seconds. Toad throws mushrooms with the accuracy of a Scandinavian sniper, squirting these shrooms across. I can't do this shit. What does this little fungus get to? All the while, the AI is gonna rubber band like no one's ever rubber banded before. no matter what you do, they're gonna catch you. They're gonna be on your ass 24/7. So drive perfectly. The AI is just gonna spawn an item, and you're gonna get hit, and well, you're out of luck. Fuck you, Luigi. Combine this with the narrow tracks and the obstacles that you need perfect precision, and as I mentioned, the driving's all sloopy-doopy. Looking online, this has been a commonly discussed issue, with the site going into great detail on how this rubber banding works. Basically, the AI's base stats are vastly increased to ensure that they can stay near you. Again, this is common, but I've never seen it like this. You can get an early lead, and that helps for a little bit with the, the timer boost start. That's still in the game, but trying to even do the rocket start is still less consistent than any other game. You gotta press the button somewhere between the first and second countdown beeps, and the window lasts about 11 or so frames, meaning, yeah, there's like a 0.2 second leniency, and that's fine, but there's no indication of when this window starts and ends. Now, I've heard there's audio cues, which is fair. If true, good on them, but my Switch doesn't output audio correctly, so it sounds like this. The best strategy to win is just memorize the courses in time trials, especially the Special Cup. I know these tracks are supposed to be more difficult, but come on. Come on. Super Mario Kart does not care about what's fair or what's unfair or funfair. It transcends these labels. It's a combination of inherently difficult gameplay and just a huge amount of luck. And this is why I couldn't make the other video. So will I ever beat this game? Alas, I do not know. After this whole experience, I feel like there's a lot I have to learn. But there is one thing I've learned. Something I've said before, and I'll say again. Fuck you, Luigi.